Hi everyone. Joe, AJ, and Jenkins have just been to Joe's old school where they did a game of teachers versus students, and they invented a new game. And the head teacher of the school wasn't very happy. We then learned that Violetta was planning and plotting against Joe where she lived because she was getting annoyed that he was on TV everywhere and she wasn't. So let's continue with the story. The final score was teachers 234 runs versus pupils 6 love, 6-5, 6-2. Man of the match, or rather woman of the match, went to Mrs. Sanderson, who scored 4 conversions and took 5 wickets and tackled like a woman possessed. Jenkins, who had been watching the whole game from up the tree, clapped both teams politely. "Excellent game, Prime Minister," Jenkins said, as Joe and AJ helped him down. Just then the sound of screeching tyres pierced the air and the Prime Ministerial car pulled up in a cloud of smoke. "Prime Minister, I'm afraid you're needed," Stephen said, winding down his window. "I've come to escort you to the airport immediately." Jenkins turned his phone on and scrolled through the bank of messages urgently. His tone was serious. "It's awful news. It looks as though the world may be on the brink of a war, and you may be the only person who can stop it." Chapter 12. War. What is it good for? Joe held the phone to his ear. "Hello?" "Prime Minister," a voice crackled from the other end. "Yes?" "I am the President of East Transylvania, and you have a lot to answer for." "I do?" said Joe, somewhat taken aback. "Yes, we also you on the news with all your talking of seizing the day. Well, the silly lot in West Transylvania have done more than seize the day. They've seized our lands and got us into this. Now you can get us out, or it's war." And with that, the phone went dead. "The government in East Transylvania is on the verge of war with West Transylvania, and they're saying it's your fault," Jenkins said, rubbing his hand through the air as he read the news report from his phone. "There's a set of mountains, well, one mountain really, that they're both saying it's theirs. It seems they were watching you on the news, talking about how one should live for the moment, and decided to take matters into their own hands. If they start a war with each other, they'll only get everyone else involved, and before you know it, World War III. Well, I guess you're right. I'll have to fix things, and do whatever it takes to stop the war. I mean, I'm the Prime Minister. This is the kind of stuff I'm supposed to do, isn't it?" Joe said, uncertainly. "Very well. We leave for West Transylvania right now." Jenkins put his hands on Joe's shoulders and looked into his eyes. "I believe in you, Prime Minister." "The others will meet us at the airport." "Others?" Joe said. "Well, you didn't expect to go on holiday without taking your old mother, did you? 14 hours I was in labour with him, and this is how he repays me?" Joe's mum was yelling at the top of her voice in front of a packed airport terminal. Joe's mum was always reminding him about how long it had taken him to be born. Joe wasn't quite sure how he was supposed to respond to this. Should he apologise? Promise not to do it again? In the end, he took to saying nothing and smiling. "No, it's lovely you're here, Mum. It was a surprise, that's all. And it's not a holiday, it's a summit." "A summit," Joe smiled, giving Jenkins a nod. "A it," Jenkins emphasised. "Oh yes, one of those." AJ, Joe, Jenkins and Joe's mum walked through a special entrance at the side of the terminal and across the tarmac of the runway towards a small but smart-looking private jet. "Hope you like your plane, sir," Jenkins said as they climbed aboard. "We added modifications you requested. It was an amazing sight. It had a real log-burning fire in it for starters, a library, a ping-pong table, obviously, a big screen TV, even more obviously. The normal plane seats had been replaced by sofas, and there was a pizza chef on board, at all times too." "Excellent work, Jenkins. If you're going to fly, fly in style, I say," Joe said, looking around in awe. Well, quite, Jenkins said. We shall arrive in comfort and refreshed. Mum, are you doing anything tomorrow? Once we're back from the summit, Joe said. I thought I would dust down my park warden outfit ready for the grand opening tomorrow. If you manage to avert World War III today, that is, she replied. Well, I'll have a surprise for you. I'd really like you to be the guest of honour and the cut of the ribbon at the park opening. Oh, darling, are you sure? I mean me, Joe's mum asked. After all, you are the chief park warden. That place wouldn't be half as good if it weren't for you. Joe's mum beamed. I can't believe it. You really are the best Prime Minister a mother could have. Ha, my pleasure, Mum, my pleasure, Joe chuckled. We're going to get our park back. I'm so happy I could do a somersault, AJ smiled. You totally should. 5 hours later, they landed at West Transylvania Airport. Everyone emerged from the plane, slightly green and walking with a wobble, all except AJ. I can't believe the captain let me fly the plane. What a guy! You should have seen his face when I did the first somersault. He was red with pride. Joe shook his head. He hadn't got the strength to talk and feared that opening his mouth would result in instant projectile vomiting anyway. He was certain of one thing, though. AJ must never have been allowed to control anything bigger than a remote control car from now on. He was fairly sure he'd caught Jenkins sucking his thumb and praying at one point. There was a car waiting for them on the runway. It was a big limousine that stretched out almost to the horizon, with flags on the front. They zipped through the streets like lightning before the limo pulled up outside a big, Gothic-looking building. Oh, how much do we owe you? Mum shouted at the soundproof glass. How much do we owe you? Mum, this isn't a taxi. We don't have to pay for it, Joe told her. That's right, Jenkins, isn't it? Yes, of course. Joe and his mini entourage got out of the car and walked up to the entrance, press from all over the world snapping cameras at them as they entered the summit building. It was a grand place filled with marble walkways and huge, important-looking meeting rooms. Leaders from all over the world had joined the summit to do whatever they could do to avert the war. Jenkins, Joe whispered, I'm nervous. Sir, you're here for a reason. You are the Prime Minister. Think about what you got here, a desire to do the right thing. You're a good person. The world is waiting, Prime Minister, Jenkins smiles. Thanks, Jenksy. Joe took a deep breath, opened the door, and stepped into the summit room. There were people everywhere, and they all had earpieces in. Joe was given his own and realised that it translated what everyone was saying into your own language. Either that, or it was to listen to the football scores. And now let's hear from the British Prime Minister. See if he can sort this mess out, said the President of East Transylvania, gesturing for Joe to step up to the podium. The room fell silent, and Joe could hear his own heartbeat thumping loudly in his ears. This was it. There was no going back now. The world was waiting. Joe cleared his throat and stepped up to the microphone. Okay, I think this is a good place to stop. It is Friday. It's the last day of the term. I just want to say everyone has worked really, really hard over the past month or so. And I know it's not been easy, but everyone's been doing a really good job. And Miss Kay's been telling me how proud she is of everyone else's in her class, all the work that she's received. So I hope everyone has a really nice, well-deserved break and ready to come back fresh, learning from home in a week's time. Have a lovely holiday. Bye.